So it is August 10th and we are leaving the Denver area and we're going west on I-70 over the mountain through the Eisenhower Tunnel. And one of the things that we've been trying to remember, and we did, is we got to check our mattresses, our Sleep Number mattresses. 4 years ago when we did come into the Denver area, we didn't think about the elevation and how that affects an air mattress. So my mattress actually did spring a leak, and we ended up replacing it. So we're putting notes all over. Remember to deflate the mattress. So that is one thing you have to remember when you get in the mountains. We'll see if it inflates even more. Of course, we'll go over the mountain and it'll deflate again. But anyways, we're going to play it safe. Let's deflate the mattress.
You can hear me now? Okay, it looks clear here.
Well, Sue and I are finally pulling out of the Golden, Colorado campground we stayed at called Dakota Ridge. We stayed here for a week. We're on our way to Glenwood Springs, Colorado. We'll be taking I-70 and we'll be going through the famous Eisenhower Tunnel at over 11,000 foot elevation. Now it's kind of funny here watching me pull out of here. It was, tighter than most places. It wasn't death-defying, but nonetheless, I had to go fairly slow, be very deliberate, and this was one of the early campgrounds that we encountered when we first started RVing. And we were actually in an area that was probably a little bit tighter and more difficult than this. So I guess I'm going to tip my hat to the fact that I didn't smash it the first time, and you'll see here that I don't smash it the second time. What I got coming up here is I got some pedestrians that I obviously had to respect. The person was having a little difficulty navigating, but it's kind of embarrassing sometimes because I've got to basically show them that, hey, where you're standing, I have to be. So I was just patient and I waited for that. And when I flipped around the corner here, I had plenty of choices where to queue up so we can put the Honda on. I chose the extreme left-hand side, and it wasn't long after I parked here, Sue grabbed the Honda that we had parked remotely, and she pulled up in back of us so we could start putting it on. Now, we work as a really good team together, putting this on and taking it off. Sue usually takes it off because that's usually at the end of a drive, and typically it's about an hour, hour and a half since my last restroom break, so that's really the first thing that's on my mind. And so by the time I get out to help her, many times she's in fact done. In real time, it takes about 5 minutes to put this on and about 5 minutes to take it off. And then I've got about another 4 or 5 minutes of fooling around, shifting the gears and making sure everything is warm and ready to go.
Away we go.
Turning left.
Yep, take a left.
What you're going to see here is the technique that Sue and I use.
Not going.
Not going.
Not going.
Not going. I will continue to say that many times when I have obvious possible opportunities to drive, but I'm not going to go, and I don't want Sue guessing that she's going to have a calamity.
Alright, going.
Okay, you see that I said I'm going, and it gives her a chance to say, hey, no, that's not good, don't go. What was really a corker on coming out of this campground was it literally was only a few miles later, and I was crawling up this mountain.
Yeah, it's floored.
Yep. And it actually even downshifted. I'm in third gear, 37 miles an hour, floored. I was reading last night on the forums, people asking if 450 horsepower was enough. They're talking about this big trailer they have. They want to make sure it's okay. And all these guys going, oh yeah, no problem, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, bunch of liars. There's nothing wrong with our motor. There just ain't enough poop on this. This is the extreme. And to be able to pull this baby up here, in a really awesome fashion, the big motor, that adds, another $30,000 to the purchase price. Or more.
So here's our first chain station for pullovers. There are a lot of them along this route.
Grade next 2 miles. So I could have passed this truck probably, but
You could have passed them.
yeah, probably because I had a lot more momentum than he did. But I learned a long time ago that if you pass these trucks, you better be man enough to go down the hill as fast as they do. And I'm not. The average trucker, man, makes up a lot more time going downhill than he does going up. So I expect that guy to pull away from me.
Yeah. What, 6% looks like?
Yep.
Oh, it's lovely.
And the engine has got the high jake brake on, so if you look at this here, truck's over 26,000, speed limit's 45. I'm literally almost going the speed limit finally, going 40.
40.
Yeah, I kind of got to step on the gas a little bit to go faster, to undo the brake a little bit. But I have 365 horsepower going rearward when all 6 cylinders are basically just an air pump and are not exploding any fuel. I don't know what the lower stage is. I only have a 2-stage one here. You see, I creeped up to 50 miles an hour.
And you've got the jake brake on.
And I got the jake brake on because I stepped on the gas a little bit because I didn't want to go too slow.
Our first tunnel coming up.
This isn't the Eisenhower.
No,
We're
no,
not
no,
there yet.
We're not there. We've got a few tunnels besides that.
Alright, no beeping the horn in this one.
No, don't do that. into the light tomorrow.
I'm too young to be going into the light, honey.
Good point. Just drive.
First rest area sign. Georgetown.
I can't go in there. It said no trucks over 35 feet. So we passed a sign that said chain check and brake check area. It usually means you got an incline coming up.
So I suppose if we see a chain station, you need a bathroom break, that would be where you turn out.
Smart thinking.
Yeah.
There was a sign on there that said 30-minute chain up. The Chan band couldn't put chains on a truck in 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes per wheel.
So here it says tunnel ahead. If you're over 1311, use a different route. We are 12-9. We're good.
Coming up to this tunnel, assuming this is the big one. Got it floored. Going 40 miles an hour, 38. Eisenhower Johnson Memorial Tunnel. Elevation 11,000 feet.
1973.
Alright, pro tip, take your sunglasses off.
So what do we read, like a mile and a half?
Yeah,
It takes about 5 minutes to get through here from what they say on the internet. For us, maybe 6, maybe 7.
it said, is there a grade inside the tunnel? Steep grade inside the tunnel? In the tunnel, I'm going 33 miles an hour and I've got it floored.
35. Here it must be.
Is that what it said?
Yeah.
So it said 7% for about the next 6 miles. 7% grade.
Alright, I'm
6
in
miles.
high J grade and I still have to step on the brakes.
You know you're going down, but it's legal. Runaway ramps. I think we're good. Ah, there it is.
Wow. Now that's a different kind. Look at it. It goes straight. Not only is it straight, it goes straight up. When they were all done, I wonder if they paid somebody to test it out. Or if they just waited for the first time somebody used it.
Oh my God, just okay, tested this week.
So there's all different designs. Usually they're gravel. Depends how much room they have to work with. Sometimes they got to be a little trickier.
Yeah, this is a lot of.
Okay, left at the fork, honey. Okay.
Do not go straight.
Truckers, don't be fooled. 4 more miles of steep grade.
It's like our next runway truck ramp is coming up.
Boy, that would be a long 1 3/4 miles.
Oh my God, truly.
Little sign on the truck runway says in use.
Oh my God.
And you're like, ah, come on! Spaces left.
Yes.
Looks like west Going west on this is harder than going east. East you have a much slower incline going up, which is the slowest, and going down is the steepest.
Yeah.
Feel like I gotta step on it.
So there's a change station in 3/4 a mile. Would you rather just pull off? Because the one we have to exit and go all the way over there, and then it turns around and comes back.
Yeah, let's do that.
The change.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just keep going left.
So the rest stop, what do you have to do?
It's on the other side. Go 5.5 miles.
Yeah, that change station, that would have been fine.
That would have been fine.
Yeah.
0.8.
0.8?
Yeah. Oh, it's not open. Okay.
All right, we're hoping on this, but looks like it's closed.
29 more miles. This is classic. Why many times Sue will ask me if I have to go to the bathroom, and then I'll turn the computer on up here and I'll send it down to you know where, and I'll go, I don't think I do, but you don't want to play that game close because this is what happens.
Right. This is...
So once you speed ahead and see what the satellite view looks like on the one that's 29 miles.
We're at 183, right around 178 is a chain station that looks like they all have been very long.
At 178?
Yeah, like 178.7.
So as we're going down, we're going to be going up again, and we missed our rest stop. It was closed, so we're looking for a chain up area, which is plenty wide and very long, and it looks like in about, I don't know, 3 miles, 4 miles, we should be able to just pull over and use the restroom then. Here's a ramp. Wow, that's some deep gravel.
Forget that experience.
Ooh, yeah. Boy, if it makes it all the way up to those barrels, you're going super fast. Holy smokes.
Chain station right here. Oh, nice asphalt, wide.
Thank you, Colorado.
Yeah, this is nice. Thank God we bring our own toilet.
Okay. Wow, that road is right way down below us. This video ultimately ended up being 28 minutes, but I can tell you before I started editing it, it was about 2.5 hours. And I kept telling myself that I can't cut out sections like this because the whole point of this video was twofold. I had to show people what a beautiful and absolute must-do drive this was,
And I wanted to try to solve the problem that I had, and that was when I tried to research what I was getting myself into with the Dutch Star, I just couldn't find anything that gave me a warm and fuzzy feeling. Now, I can tell you that if you're driving a diesel and you have a Jake brake, you can be reassured that this is a very controllable trip. But if you don't have some type of a holdback mechanism, and if you're just relying on the tow haul gearing on a gasser, I have to admit that I'm a little uneducated on that, but I'm thinking that it might be kind of scary, because remember, a couple times I told you folks while you were watching this that I had to step on my brakes even with the Jake brake holding me back. About 4 days prior to Sue and I taking off on this jaunt on I-70 through the Eisenhower, Sue and I met with one of her friends from her high school days and her dad, Debbie and Jerry, and they told us about their last recent drive across here. And apparently when they went from Boulder to the Las Vegas area, they had a detour that was necessitated in this area, and it added 3.5 hours to their trip, and it took them through all sorts of switchbacks, which probably excluded RVs and probably sent them on an even worse trek. And this not only happened on their way over to Vegas, but then about a week later on their way back to Boulder through this same area, they were detoured again. So we were kind of freaked out that maybe that was going to happen to us. The reason for these detours is there was this Grizzly fire back in August of 2020 that burned for 4 months and did so much damage on the hillsides and the hillsides' ability to retain water that now they have kind of a chronic flash flooding condition, and it's very unpredictable that once it starts raining, you don't know how out of control this could get. Now you see that roadway there right next to that washout of water. You can see that the eastbound lanes actually are underneath the westbound lanes here, and all of the rocks and mud and everything that in a moment's notice can come shooting off that mountain has proved a couple times to be very dangerous, and I don't know if people were in fact killed, but they don't take any chances anymore. They have a protocol in place that they're going to use until they can effect some permanent changes here, which might take years and many millions of dollars to pour into this roadway to make it safer. You can see this big section here that got wiped out recently, and they had to pour it and do that, and I think the roadway at that time was closed for a number of weeks. You can imagine what a major inconvenience this was for commerce and these towns that really rely on this major artery for their well-being.
What mile marker is this?
Drive now.
Yeah.
So there's a fairly long section, and I think this is called the Grizzly Canyon section. This is where all the damage was with the fire that they had in August of 2020, and that's what causes this water to run off so quickly and in an uncontrolled fashion. And this isn't a problem that's going to go away with a $10 fix. One of our disappointments staying in this area was not being able to go on the bike trail. Apparently, along this roadway, ducking in and out underneath it many times, suspended over the side of it, is this absolutely spectacular bike trail that we were able to go on about 4 miles of it before it was closed off. And we actually attempted it a couple of times because we erroneously thought that it was some type of a temporary closure. But I think it's more of a long-term thing, because during the rainy, they call it the monsoon season, that we were here while visiting, they get enough rains that they don't need to deal with the monkey business of opening and closing and fixing the bike trail. They got enough trouble keeping this roadway running. What you're going to see coming up here is an unbelievably giant looking, kind of a modern skyscraper looking interchange, and realizing that you're in the middle of this mountain desert area, and all of a sudden you see these elevated roadways which cost multiple hundreds of millions, I don't know, maybe even $1 billion to build. And you have to realize that after you build it, many times it costs even more money to maintain it than it did to actually build it. When Sue and I drove through this area, we thought, oh my God, this has been the most spectacular drive that we've ever taken. But wouldn't you know it, a week later, when we left Glenwood Springs and we drove to, I believe, Green River, that ride also had such spectacular, giant, broad horizon vistas that ride actually, I think, topped this one. We'll have to see how that turns out, and who knows, maybe I'll make a video of that one. When you come to Greenwood Springs and you visit the Iron Mountain Greenwood Springs Spa like we did, make sure that you walk across this bridge, because you will be going over to the Old Town restaurant area. We'd like to thank Mary and Tom for giving us a tip in our PayPal tip jar. That is where we spent it. Thank you very much. Here is us checking in once again to a familiar KOA. Nice and cozy feeling. Buttoning things up for the evening after a very beautiful but stressful drive.
And we have arrived. We're in Silt, Colorado, about 20 miles west of Glenwood, and that's the area we're really going to be exploring.
We hope you enjoyed coming along with us in the cab on our drive from Golden, Colorado to Greenwood Springs. After all, you had the best seat in the house along with us. We'd like to invite you to like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and that way you'll be notified when we come up with something new. Until then, we will see you next week.